So we're here to solve this Araf puzzle by Serkan. It has a variation which is called line, which means that we can take only as many as 3 cells in a row together before the Araf would have to bend. That comes into play right at the start. One of the first things I see is this upper left corner has 3 circle clues that themselves can't connect in an Araf. They're either the same number or one apart. So the 12 in the upper left that's pinned has to come up, has to come over. This variation rule now forces a wall here after you take 3 straight cells, so it's going to have to come down and take one more. This connected group of the 12 and 5 now have only 5 total cells, so we'll have to take at least this cell for a 6th cell. And we can mark others in. We're going to come and look around the rest of these pin cells. The 13 has to come down, the 12 doesn't join to the 13. So this is a good start here. We can now ask, where does the 13 connect, and could it connect to the 18? Well, there are only these 5 more white cells that aren't marked, and so if these 5 plus 1, 6, gives us 8 total cells if it's joined together, we would have to pass through another circle clue if the 13 joined to the 18, so this is not possible. So it comes down, and now the variation rule comes in again. We can't go further down, so the 13 doesn't join to the 4. It comes over to the right, and if we come back over here, the 12 comes down, but now it can't go any further. And so it goes to the right, and it needs to take one more cell here. It's taken 4, but this group with 12 and 4 has to be at least 5 large, so it takes one more. That finishes it out. We'll come back here. The 13's got to come to the right, but it can't go any further. The 18 has to extend. It's going to get all the way to this 5, and now has to come up. Because we've already marked this wall here, the upper left region's actually finished at this part of the puzzle, and what that now shows us is through the starting group, this 13 is now exactly constrained to join to this 9. It's going to come over. We'll see more groups coming out. A key thing to recognize with this 13 is it's got to take a total of 10 or more cells, because the lower digit is a 9. Right now it's taken 7. This could be 8. Sorry, let me get this. This could be 8, but this would be 9 and 10. Notice that if we did take the cell, we couldn't go any further. So marking that in, we now get one of the more interesting deductions in this puzzle, which is to, again, think about connectivity through the grid. There are 3 circles in this lower left corner, and that means that we need to have one more circle join up with these so that we have perfectly paired all the Araf groups. You always need an even number in any subsection of the grid. And so we've got to span across this bottommost row in this 4th column through the 6th column, or we're not going to be able to reach across. And when we do that, here the variation rule comes in straight away. We span 3 columns in going this space, so we can't go any further into this row to the left or any further in this row to the right. So it's going to have to be this 5 clue that's coming in. It's going to have to be coming through this cell. And now we can ask, does the 5 connect to the 7, or does it connect potentially to the 41? And note that if it connects to the 41, there's no group that can take this cell here, which can't be part of the 5 in any way because of the variation rule. And so the 5 has to connect to the 7. You can more directly show it can't connect to the 1, because then you're really splitting these 2. So of the options, the 5 connects to the 7, and we form my favorite shape in this puzzle, which is a 3x3 square. It's one of the natural limitations that this variation will have. You can't go further than 3 in any direction, but it's nice that you get that shape popping up. It's a pretty brilliant deduction hidden in this puzzle. Coming back to where we were working, the 13 to 9 has 9 cells right now. It needs to take a 10th, so we'll mark that in. This 4 can't come and join to a 5 because those are 1 away. So it's going to come up here. It's got to take at least 5 cells. Can't come further up, so it's got to take at least to here. This group here has to take at least 6 cells, so it's going to continue up. And we get to a stage like this where we again have to figure out what connects to what. And there are a few ways to think about this. My way is to recognize the 7th and 8th columns have a pretty far path. So let's consider like this path, which is 4 cells tall. If this one doesn't connect to the 5, if it came like this, it basically can't get far enough down before it needs to bend and come around. And so you can map the 1 to the 5. This 9 can't come over to the 8, so it's got to connect to the 5 below, and that means the 1 connects to the 8. With those connections, the biggest constraint is actually this 9-5 group, because it needs to take more cells. It has to take as many as 6. Right now it has 3. This could be a 4th or a 5th. This would be a 6th. if it came and took any below, it would now be breaking the variation rule. So we'll just mark in those edges, come over to here. So it has to take at least those cells. We have a situation where we've got to have something take these cells in the top row. There's no way for these groups to come up and over to the space. So this has to be taken by the group to the left. Similar logic can show that none of these groups can come over to take this row in row 1, column 7, so it comes here. This 4-8 group has 6 cells total. It can't take this cell for its 7th, so this cell has to come down from somewhere else, and it can't come all the way from this bottom group, so it's going to come from this, which gives it 4 cells. And with the last cells coming to complete this group, we finish out the puzzle. It's a medium difficulty, but really fun variation. I really loved, as you saw, some of the places where the 3 in a row rule comes to powerful effect. It's definitely used throughout the solve, but very much in this bottom part where after you break the grid into 2 sections, 3 circle clues in the lower left requires 1 to cross over this boundary, and that sets up this fun shape in the lower left corner. So I hope you learned something about solving Araf puzzles and this variation, and we'll see you again soon.